So, Kobe or Michael?
You know, someone asked me to pick,
I know.
You see that one?
Yeah, I saw that one. Go ahead.
I picked Bill Russell. He's got 11 rings.
Smart man. While we're on the subject of dynamic wing players, obviously it's much easier to compare when you've coached them, so you can only judge somebody from afar. But where would you place LeBron in this pantheon of dynamic wing players?
He's working on those rings. When he gets those rings at 5 and 6, then he's right there. He's a terrific basketball player, fun to watch, and I don't think we've ever seen the likes of him.
And yes, for the record, I just asked a LeBron question before Derrick Rose questions. I got tired of the when is Derrick Rose going to play questions as a beat writer throughout the season. What was your take on that situation from afar, and what do you think of Derrick as a player?
Oh, well, we like him. We think he's a terrific player with a great heart, fearless. You know, when I got to Chicago, I came just after Michael Jordan had had the stress fracture in his foot, and there was a whole hullabaloo about him playing or not playing, and then about him playing 20 minutes, and then 24 minutes, and 26 minutes, and, you know, their prorating is. He ended up scoring, 63 in the playoffs against Boston that year at the end, and he was totally upset about it because he knew that he could play. He would go down to North Carolina and play ball down in North Carolina, even though the Bulls wouldn't let him practice or play. They were trying to protect him. So there's an inner kind of gauge that a player has about, I'm going to be able to play, I can do the things I want to do, and I can go out there and be fearless on the court. Derrick never got to that point. How can you question that? You have to let the player be there. He has an obligation to fulfill his contract. He should play if he's capable, but when you have a player of that status who plays that way, with that kind of intensity and that kind of determination, he's got to be able to do what he does best.
Fair enough. I'm getting the crack right now to ask, oh, there we go. I'm getting the opportunity right now to ask Phil questions, but there are people walking around with note cards. We're going to turn the floor over to you for the last few minutes, so if you have a question for Phil, you can write it out and somebody will gather them for you. As you would expect, this book is chock full with plenty of wonderful leadership technique examples, team building exercises. Some of them have been covered before. The classic turn the lights out and make the Bulls practice in the dark, sometimes practice in silence to prepare them for the chaos of an NBA game. You know, typical stuff you'd expect from the guy called the Zen Master, and we're already ready. You got to wait, though. I got 3 more pages of notes here. But early on in the book, there's a quote that jumped out at me. It says, I can't pretend to be an expert in leadership theory. And my first question, of course, would be, then why the heck are we up here on stage? But more seriously, is that just an example of how leading a team and building a team is a fluid process that changes by the season?
Without a doubt. I think that, as I mentioned before, that a lot of it's intuitive. Who is it? Indy Jones, who was in one of his Indiana Jones, in one of his films. Steven Spielberg's guy, was asked, "What are we going to do next?" And he says, "I don't know. I'm just going by feel here." And that's kind of the way it is at times. That you have to follow your intuitive nature. The biggest point I think I make. This book is really a spiritual book. It's about being attuned to your inner voice and being at peace with it, and in doing so, learning to lead from the inside out. You don't learn leadership skills, I think, from other people. I've gotten a lot of books sent to me about leadership. I think management has loads of books about leadership that people read, and they can pick up ideas from those. But if you're not authentic or who you really are, people see through that pretty quickly, and especially ball players, because they're tuned in to people that have been selling them or making them buy things or using them since they've been 12, 13 years of age, and they have pretty good skill at, seeing that. So this book is a lot about, following that inner voice and leading from the inside out, and how to do that, or how I was learning how to do that in the process.
That ties in nicely to another quote that jumped out at me. It said, as coach, you can't force your will on people. If you want them to act differently, you need to inspire them to change themselves. And I thought one of the consistent themes that came out from this book was the art of letting go and empowering the players. And I'm sure it's a multifaceted answer, but how do you go about accomplishing that, particularly with different personnel?
Well, there's a couple things that happened early in my career. I had a ball player that was a terrific ball player. He played for Georgetown on their championship team back when I guess Ewing only won one championship. He was a freshman on that team. He came to me in the CBA in Albany, where I was coaching the team called the Patroons. And I have a ring from the Patroons. I have a championship ring there. I wanted him to be a player, and the NBA scouts would come and look at him, and they'd say, boy, this kid's got a lot of talent, but there's something that's not quite right about him. And at some point, I had to actually let him go, cut him from the team, because he wasn't a good force or a good individual, good teammate for our group. And it affected me so much, I kind of was driving home. I had a 40-mile drive from Albany to where I lived that time in Woodstock, New York. And I actually kind of teared up driving down the road, just thinking about the fact that how much I wanted this individual to succeed, and I wanted to help him succeed, and I couldn't do it. It wasn't about me, it was about him. And what you can do, and we always have this statement, you can't change the spots on a leopard, that as much as you want a player that shows some talent to do something you want to do on your team, you have to look at what he really is and what it's really about, and use his attributes for what it is. And so that was a lesson learned early on in my career, and I was happy to learn that, because that's one of the things that everybody as a coach thinks that my coaching will help this guy along a whole lot. But a lot of times it's about what can he do inside of, what is his skills that can fit inside of our team framework that is going to help him, and how can he manifest his best skills when he does that, when he submits to the system and learns how to play.
I don't think any conversation with Phil Jackson would be complete without a mention of the triangle offense. And you write that the offense aligned perfectly with the values of selflessness and mindful awareness that you've been studying in Zen Buddhism. From a basketball standpoint, what did you like about the triangle offense?
I've been looking for an offense to run. I'd run a flex offense, I'd run a hawk offense, which was something Hubie Brown had developed when he was with the Atlanta Hawks. That's how it got its name. And was feeling unsuccessful using those systems. I had grown up in a very loose system with the New York Knicks, but we had played such intuitive, selfless basketball that we made it work in a lot of different ways. And Tex Winter was here as an assistant coach, and obviously, said, I've got something for you that I think you'll really like, and so we worked at it. And what I like about it is that you can't look to score every time you catch the ball in this offense, which was kind of opposed to what Michael Jordan was all about. But I always told people, this isn't an offense from Michael Jordan or Scottie Pippen. This is an offense for Steve Kerr or Bill Cartwright or Horace Grant, or players that can live off a system like this and do the things that they do well as role players. The other guys, they can create their own shots. And this offense should have the spacing and the availability for the great players to also find freedom for their individual talent. And so it's a logical thing. It gets good shots, it gets good defensive position on the floor. And from that, you can play this game quite well and logically. And I thought that's an appropriate way to play. Plus, I like standards. I like systems, because I think people then don't take it like so personally. It's not the coach telling them how to do it. It's about something that's a standard that we have to live up to. This is something that, once you learn how to play inside this system or this way, you'll fit in with our group. Or, it's for players that have been there for a while that can help teach the younger players, hey, this is how you do this, and can use it as a way to promote teamwork. And I think those are the things that really help these teams be successful.